This is going to be a combination of current commentary and revisit of an earlier rant. However, my thoughts on both are pretty much about the same thing: public appearances. I'm not talking about how people dress, because 9 times out of 10 I really don't care about that. I'm talking actually about backing up what you say. As we know, recently Israel and Palestine got into yet another shooting match over the Gaza Strip. Until now, this is a topic that I've never really commented on, not only because some people can be really jingoistic about it, but because, to be honest, I don't think either side is even close to being in the right. However, in this context, I think it is important to say something to the Israeli government and military. If you want people to stop calling you a sociopathic bully committing war crimes and genocide, it would probably be in your best interest to stop bombing schools, hospitals, UN relief missions, ambulances, houses, and even some of your allies. Just a thought. Yes, I know that Hamas and their ilk like to hide among civilians, which genuinely makes the job of grabbing terrorists hard. Fine. But you're never going to look like the good guys if you keep grabbing land that doesn't belong to you, or blast the hell out of women and children. However, you might just create more terrorists who now have a good reason to hate your guts. Just trying to help. The other thing is people's response to my rant last year over conspiracy theories. Specifically, I'm getting criticized over the fact that I don't buy the theories about 9/11. I've since looked into this in more detail, but my position more or less stands. The stories are overblown at best. Now, since the theme of this episode is appearances, let's give the conspiracy guys some credit by establishing why these theories are popular in the first place. The US government not only contradicted itself in a lot of places when the 9/11 attacks were being investigated, but it went to the trouble of keeping some critical information out of the public eye, supposedly for the sake of national security. As anyone familiar with the McCarthy hearings knows, this can definitely be a load of bunk. However, some of the theories concocted to explain this aren't much better. For example, there are those who say that the World Trade Center was demolished by explosives as opposed to destroyed by the plane crashes. I've already explained why I feel this is very unlikely, namely the fact that these buildings were hit by 2 fairly large jetliners which tend to burst in huge fireballs on impact. But some people weren't too pleased with this. So I looked into it, and sure enough, the engineering community seems to be pretty divided on the issue. A lot of engineers say that it was the demolition, but at least as many say it was the plane crash. And it doesn't help that the eyewitnesses are split on this. So personally, I think it's dangerous to make an absolute statement on something that even a group of experts and the people who were actually there can't agree on. Another popular theory is the idea that the Pentagon wasn't hit by a plane, despite forensic evidence that suggests otherwise, including bodies and debris found at the scene, and that flights 77 and 93 never crashed at all. Their passengers supposedly were deplaned safely and asked to go into hiding. Now think about this for a minute. There's considerable physical evidence that both of these planes went down, not to mention a lot of eyewitness testimony. On top of that, between this and the demolition theory, you would need tens of thousands of people involved and staying quiet to pull something like this off. And we're talking about a country where people will talk about their farts in insanely casual detail. There's simply no way that something that sensational would stay quiet for long, especially when there's a very captive audience. While we're on the subject, I'd like to talk about why these sort of theories aren't taken seriously in the first place, besides being, by definition, highly implausible. For one thing, a lot of those who take conspiracy theories seriously use a lot of circular arguments. This means that someone holds a position so strongly that anything proving it wrong is shrugged off as a cover-up. For example, a radical left-wing magazine called Counterpunch hired an aerospace engineer to look into the official story of what happened to the World Trade Center. What he found was that the buildings were destroyed because of crash damage to the planes, and he wrote about it in very intricate detail. Popular Mechanics interviewed about 300 other experts, and they came to the same conclusions. So, the demolition theorists simply said that all these experts are in on the conspiracy. Another problem is that if you look into it in any detail, the motives are hardly ever the same from one theorist to another. Some say that it was staged to start a new world order. Some say that it was to create an excuse to invade the Middle East, like the US ever needed one before. Some even say that it was an elaborate form of insurance fraud. Again, if these people can't even agree among themselves as to why the government would stage a massive terrorist attack, how would they expect anyone else to take it seriously? I don't really have any more to add to that, except to say that whenever you hear something really outlandish, you should always look into it. And yes, that does include everything that I've ever said on this show. In this case, great places to start are Popular Mechanics, National Institute for Standards and Technology, and any newspaper with decent global coverage. Don't take someone's word for it just because you like what they say. It may just be that they're saying what you want to hear. Enough said.